A very successful weekend, and I thought our team played very well in two games. Thursday night, a little bit shorthanded, and then Saturday night against a strong Quinnipiac team. So we were excited, got back to practice today, and had a good competitive workout.
All right, now a couple of guys are banged up. We'll talk about them, and we'll go down through the roster man by man. We'll also go game by game just over the last few days and talk about those two big wins on the home court at Robert Morris University. I promised you I wouldn't talk about the standings in the NEC, so I'm not going to touch them, although you guys are doing okay right now.
Yeah, we're slowly crawling up the standings, and we're excited about the position we've put ourselves in after stumbling a little bit out of the gates. But we understand that there's still very many games to go against a lot of tough teams and a lot of tough environments. So no time to rest. It's time to really try and continue to push, continue to work, and that's our mission every day.
All right, and that is the MO. There's no question about it. Let's, by the way, before we get further into basketball, we need to talk a little bit about our special guest tonight, John Banaszak, former Pittsburgh Steeler, who is the head coach in waiting at Robert Morris University. He was named head coach in waiting, the associate head coach of the football program under the venerable Joe Walton. He'll be joining us a little bit later. So we're going to test your football knowledge here tonight.
Really? Interesting. I got to figure out who my booking agent is, Shove. Last week I had Drew McMinn, who's the Northeast Conference Coach of the Year. You're a Hall of Famer. And then we got John Banaszak, who's a Super Bowl winning player and future Division I-A football coach. I'm the only person that hasn't accomplished anything that continually seems to be on the show. And then obviously Marty, who's, Marty Galosi, our first guest in Robinson,
True.
Who's legendary in his own mind. So we really, we cover all the bases.
He truly is, but we're going to elevate you to the next level. So
you guys keep cutting out.
You're next, so no doubt about that. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about football with Robert Morris, coach in waiting, John Banaszak. We go for a short timeout. We're going to take a short break right here and reset things, and we'll come back and talk about Robert Morris's wins over Sacred Heart and Quinnipiac last week. We'll do that right after this on ESPN 970. In West Mifflin tonight, the Andy Toole Show here on ESPN 970, and let's talk about the last couple of Robert Morris basketball victories. We'll start and go in calendar order, if you will, chronological order, and we'll start with the win over Sacred Heart on Thursday night. In that game, Coach, you were down a couple of men, and not just a couple of guys off the roster. You're talking about your two leading scorers did not play in that ball game, namely Belton Jones and Carvel Anderson. They were out with various and sundry injuries, and obviously Belton maybe had the worst of it with a mild concussion, symptoms of a concussion that he suffered a week ago at Monmouth on the road, and the docs, the trainers, and the coach decided to keep him out of that game.
Yeah, when you go into a game and you don't have your two leading scorers, it always makes you a little bit nervous as a coach. I mean, even when you're going with a full roster, playing against a conference team like Sacred Heart, who was 3-1 at the time coming into the Toole Center, you're always a little bit on edge about their strengths and some of the things that you think they might be able to hurt you with. And then to find out that you're going to lose your two leading scorers, that's a tall task for any team. I think if you look around the country and you look at, if you just remove the two top guys in that scoring column from every team and say, go play a game, it's going to make it a little nerve-wracking. But I thought that all of our guys did a terrific job stepping up. We had guys play some extended minutes. We had guys play, step up and have some more contributions offensively to make up for losing two of our scorers. And that's the kind of team win you have to have if you're going to be successful in conference play, because there's so many different things that can happen to you. You got to be prepared as best you can, and if there is a situation where you're down a man, someone's just got to step up and contribute, and that's what we got from a lot of guys on Thursday night.
And it was a balanced scoring attack, too. Lucky Jones with 15 points, Mike McFadden, and he's been battling tendinitis. He had 15 points. You got 10 from Russell Johnson, who is playing better and better as time goes on, and Karan Williams, who's been just steady for the last month now. He had 10.
Absolutely, and I think it's really a compliment to our guys that when you have a situation where you lose two of your leading scorers, you still get four guys to get double figures in a game, you have balance. And one of the things that we talk about offensively is that we're equal opportunity. We never necessarily want to force shots to this guy or solely rely on one or two guys, because you never know when those guys might not be there. And that was the case Thursday night. You know, Carvel has had some huge games. Velton's obviously had huge games throughout his career. And if we were solely relying on those guys night in, night out, you know, I think it would make it a really even more difficult situation for us. But our guys knew that if we continue to run offense, we continue to take good shots, we continue to share the ball, we were going to have guys step up and score, and that's what we did, and you know that's why we were able to come out with a good victory.
And a good response by Anthony Myers-Pate as well. He had 7 points and 3 rebounds in that game, but 6 assists. And you know, Anthony plays a lot at point and gives Velton a spell quite often. And I know that you know, you have to go to the bench often with your hectic and frenetic pace, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. But he stepped in with 6 assists, and that was great, distributing the ball offensively.
I thought he was super aggressive, and I think those are the times when Ant's playing his best. I think there's times during the course of the year where sometimes he overthinks the situation maybe. He wants to make the perfect play. There is no perfect play. Just continue to be aggressive, attack the rim. If you have the opportunity to score, take it strong and score. If the help rotates over like we work on day in and day out, just find the open man. And I think that's exactly what he did on Thursday night. And if we can get him playing at that type of a level when he's in the ball game, it's just going to make us more dangerous because now he'll be attacking, Velton will be attacking, we'll have some post touches from, you know, Mike McFadden, Stephen Hawkins, you know, have some shooters spotted up, and now we really become even that much more difficult to guard offensively because we have some balance and we have variety in our offense.
It's the Andy Toole Radio Show live on ESPN 970 tonight, and we are here at Buffalo Wild Wings in West Mifflin with Coach Andy Toole of the Robert Morris Colonials. I know that you kiddingly told me that maybe it wasn't so much of a challenge to go with a shorter bench because you didn't have to think about who to put in certain situations. You had fewer guys to deal with on that Thursday night in that win.
Yeah, you pretty much just say, okay, who's available, who can play, go and play hard. That was our coaching on Thursday night. And, you know, like I said, David Apollon came off the bench and gave us great minutes. Stephen Hawkins did, you know, and so we try to keep guys rotating in and out as much as we could. And, you know, like I said, it's a situation you don't want to be in very often where you have limited number of bodies. We always want to have as many guys as we can available to play and playing at a high level. But it's one of the reasons that within our program that we coach everybody every day. We challenge everybody every day because you never know when you're going to be in a situation where you're going to need that person to step up. You're going to need them to be capable of coming on the floor and giving your team productive minutes. And so that's kind of been our philosophy, and it was put to the test on Thursday night, and I think our guys passed.
And you mentioned David Apollon, 6 points. And also, he pulled down a rebound in that game. He got a little bit of foul trouble. He ended up with 4 personal fouls, but he gave you 20 solid minutes. And Stephen Hawkins came in, didn't score all that many points, but he's your true freshman. He's a big guy. And, you know, in the beginning of the season, he kind of looked like he was a little bit lost out there, but he's starting to find his way. Gave you 3 points, but he pulled down 6 rebounds, and he was in there for 23 minutes, which was great because, as I mentioned, Mike McFadden's feeling a little bit of tendonitis, and he had to come out quite a bit.
Yeah, Hawk's been really progressing well. I think we talked about it last week on the show with his play in New Jersey, and we were really impressed with what he did. And, you know, not only you know, from an offensive standpoint, he had career highs in those 2 games at FDU and Monmouth, but from a defensive standpoint, rotating properly, being a little bit more urgent, picking up the speed of the game, and that's always the challenge for guys that are coming on college campuses and trying to become parts of programs, is picking up the speed of the game. And today I had one of my proudest moments ever with Hawk. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, and he got sick at practice and went over to the garbage can and got sick in the garbage can, and he ran back out on the court, and I had a little tear in my eye because a week or 2 ago, Hawk would have asked to, you know, go to the infirmary. You know, he was going to die and all this kind of stuff. So maybe some of the guys are starting to rub off on him. But I told him after practice I was super proud of the fact that he was able to go throw up in the garbage can and still make it back into practice. So a little bit demented, a little sick, but that's those are the things coaches look for and really warms our heart.
Something that he'll never forget as long as he lives either, probably.
Exactly.
All right. Andy, obviously the short bench, how much of a challenge really was it, though, when you get right down to it? I mean, was it more of just hustling guys in and out than anything, or were there other challenges that you had to face as the head coach of the Colonials?
From a substitution standpoint, it was a challenge trying to keep guys fresh. From a motivation standpoint, trying to make sure that even though guys were out there at times a little bit more tired than we would like, trying to make sure that they were mentally tough enough to continue to make the right decisions defensively was a challenge. But I think the biggest challenge probably came on the offensive end. Not having, you know, 2 primary scorers, 2 primary ball handlers. Now what you're doing is trying to figure out what situations, what plays where can you put guys to try and make them most effective? What lineup do you have on the floor where you have 5 guys where you can get the ball where you want to get it and get a good shot? I think those are some of the challenges that we faced, and Joe Gallo, my assistant, who'll be coming on here shortly, he was instrumental in really helping us with that, looking at the floor, seeing how Sacred Heart was guarding certain things, and trying to put together a good offensive plan on the fly that could get the ball either into Mike where he would be able to, get a good opportunity to shoot or get fouled, get lucky some open shots, different things like that. And that was probably the biggest challenge for us, trying to manipulate those offensive situations.
Coach Toole, with that said, did you try to change up the tempo of the game at all? Because it didn't seem like you did on our side of the floor as we were watching it.
Well, a couple times we did, and Ant Myers actually got a little upset with me that we did. There were 2 situations where we had gotten stops kind of midway through that first half, especially for the first half, I was trying to slow tempo just a little bit to make sure that when we got to the second half, we'd have enough, kind of finish the game out. And, I threw my hands up and told Ant to slow down. He kind of shot me a look like, Coach, you're ruining my flow here. But I had to tell him the next time out that it was my job to ruin his flow this week because, Mike wasn't up to full speed, and we're trying to, manipulate this thing maybe to take a little bit more time, especially with the effort that we want to give defensively at all times. If we're going to rest somewhere, it's maybe going to be walking the ball up and now getting into a set.
Andy Toole is the head coach of the Robert Morris Colonials. You're tuned to the Andy Toole radio show on ESPN 970. We are here at Buffalo Wild Wings tonight. A little bit later in the program, as Coach said, we're going to talk to one of his assistants, Joe Gallo, who is here with us tonight. Joe's enjoying dinner here at Buffalo Wild Wings. And also in our Buffalo Wild Wings guest segment tonight, former Pittsburgh Steeler John Banasak, who is the head coach in waiting at Robert Morris University football. He'll have to wait one more year as Joe Walton will come back and finish up the first 20 years of the program. And then John Banasak, who's the associate head coach, will come in and take over the Colonial football program. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. The win over Quinnipiac this past Saturday night was an 87-75 victory by Robert Morris. That's a lot of points for Bobby Moe to put up.
It is. We've had some games now where we've really gotten things going offensively and gotten those, that rare air for us, those 80s and the 90s. And so, it was nice to see the offense clicking. I thought we did an incredible job in the first half defensively, limiting what they do in the paint. One of the best teams in the paint in our league. One of the best rebounding teams in our league, if not in the country. They're top 10 in the country in overall rebounding. 3rd in the country in offensive rebound behind Syracuse and North Carolina. So these are serious guys when you talk about the backboards. And I thought we did an excellent job in the first half of really taking control of that game and then continuing to ride it out through the second.
And you mentioned their prowess on the boards and how, statistically they're so heavy in the country, but it wasn't their big guys who did the damage against you. It was their guards. You were able to stop the bigs. Yeah,
we put a lot of effort into stopping those bigs, and I think it allowed, Zion Hurst and, some of their guards, Evan Conti, to get some good looks on the perimeter. And, we kind of said to ourselves, all right, if we're going to, try and take something away, we can't let Azatam and Jamie Jackson and Usman Drami, we can't let those guys kill us. We can't let those guys just take over a game and really beat us up in the paint. And so we really wanted to defend the paint. We're going to have to play them again, and we might have to adjust some things game plan-wise, but, I thought our game plan for our game Saturday night was very effective.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that either. Russell Johnson led the offense, 22 points, and, one of the things that I've noticed about Robert Morris basketball this year is the free throw line has been a good spot for Robert Morris. Russell himself went 12 of 13 from the chalk.
And I thought that was a misprint statistically. I had to go question Jim Duzick and his stat-keeping ability because I looked at it after the game and I swore that I thought he had missed more than one. Russell is swearing to it that he only missed one, and I didn't count him when I watched the game film. But, yeah, the free throw line's been a good place for us. We've gotten there a bunch, and we've been fortunate to shoot at a pretty high percentage. We're going to knock on wood there that continues because we know we're going to be in some close ball games where we're going to have to step up and hit them coming in the future.
All right, we'll talk more about the Quinnipiac win and 87-75 victory by Robert Morris this past Saturday night. The Colonials have now won 4 consecutive Northeast Conference games. 2 on the road, 2 at home, and they continue on the road this coming Wednesday night. We'll get to more about the Quinnipiac win, and we'll take your questions via Twitter as well. You can tweet your questions to hashtag AskToole. That's AskToole, hashtag AskToole. If you have a question for us on Twitter, we do have one so far that has come in early. And again, we'll come back with more action. We'll talk about basketball, and we're going to talk a little bit of football tonight right here on the Andy Toole Coaches Show. for Robert Morris basketball on ESPN 970. I could have sworn I drove to West Mifflin tonight, but that's where we are. We're actually in West Mifflin tonight, just off of Route 51 for the Andy Toole radio show here on ESPN 970. The head coach of the Robert Morris University Colonials, Andy Toole, of course, every Monday night from 7 until 8, and you can hear it streamed live all over the world on iHeartRadio, of course, at ESPN 970. And we're taking your questions via Twitter. All you have to do is send your question to hashtag AskToole. That's AskToole. We do have a question coming, and we're going to hold that for just a second. Coach, we were talking about the wins over Sacred Heart and Quinnipiac, and we'll continue talking about the Quinnipiac game. But right now, one of your assistants, Joe Gallo, joins us, and you guys go back a little while, don't you?
We do, and we definitely are in West Mifflin because Coach Gallo and I drove around this mall about 3 times. We got to see about the entire West Mifflin and the surrounding areas. But yeah, Coach Gallo's here with us tonight. He knew that there were free wings, so he decided that he would come out and sample some of them. But yeah, Joe and I have known each other about 10 years now, and have kind of crossed paths on the recruiting front and seen each other out on the road and worked together. Well, not worked together, but worked for the company, the Hoop Group we spoke about last week. Joe worked there a little bit after I did, and had an opportunity, an opening on my staff this year. Had an opportunity to bring Joe on, and as soon as I knew there would be an opening, I knew he'd be somebody that I'd want to bring down, a guy who I know is going to be relentless in recruiting, a guy who's going to be, an energetic, intense guy each and every day, bring a lot to the practice floor, and a guy who'd be very, very helpful to me in game planning and kind of coordinating what we're doing offensively. And, he's been that for us for sure, and so we're very appreciative to have him here with us.
All right. Joe, how's it been so far here in Pittsburgh and at Robert Morris with your buddy Andy Toole?
So far, so good. Pittsburgh, I'd say, I'm not crazy about the sports fans here. We have some differences. I'm a Jets fan, and that doesn't go over so well.
Well, don't tell anybody, but I have been since I was in 5th grade. So
probably the only 2 Jet fans.
Well, I've worked in Beaver Falls for 13 years, and I know the Namath family, so I had to be a Jets fan. The thing is, I'm a Steeler fan first and foremost, but you are a New York Jets fan.
I am, and wore my Darrelle Revis jersey out to a restaurant one of the early Sundays, and it didn't go over so well, so I put that away, and I just kind of clap under the table. But and the Robert Morris experience so far, it's been great. I mean, I've kind of followed the program ever since Andy and Coach Rice have been there, and we spoke. Actually, the first time around when Andy got the job, we spoke a little bit about possibly coming on with him, and some things didn't work out at that time, and we always kind of talked about working together for a while. So when he had the opening, he kind of called me, and it wasn't even a question if I was coming or not. It was more like, when do I start? So.
Well, first of all, I'm amazed that the Darrelle Revis jersey got heckled because Darrell's from Aliquippa.
It's a smart one. If you're going to wear one in the area, that'd probably be the right one to wear. Sanchez wouldn't go over as well.
No.
But if you get a chance, it's going to be with Revis.
Sanchez wouldn't even go over as well in New York, to be quite honest with you.
No.
Coach, you were talking, in all seriousness, you were talking about using your assistants to do some in-game watching because, let's face it, you have one pair of eyes. That's an extra set of eyes right there with basketball knowledge. Tell me how you use Coach Gallo and some of the other assistants during games.
One of the things that we do, the assistant who has the scout obviously is responsible for a lot of the pregame prep and talking about how we're going to, break things down offensively and defensively. They're responsible for in-game matchups and things like that. And then within that, Coach Gallo, I kind of lean on for a lot of the offensive adjustments we need to make. I instruct him on watching how they're defending certain screens, certain plays. Are there certain counters that we have that we know we can utilize later in the game? And so we kind of have a running dialogue as we go through games about what play we might want to run next, what we're going to do coming out of a timeout. Close games, I'll walk by him and say, hey, start thinking of some late game plays, some late game situation stuff, just so his brain starts to work. Sometimes as the head coach, you're so emotionally involved in the game, you really can't sit back as easily and see all the adjustments. And so it's really important to have a staff that's out there monitoring those things. And Coach Burns and Robbie Pridgeon, they do a great job from a defensive standpoint, trying to figure out how our opponents are trying to attack us, offensively, where we're breaking down defensively, or how our rotations are, how's our ball pressure, things like that. And that's what we talk about during our halftime segments and timeouts about, different ways that we can kind of sharpen up during the course of a game.
In the Sacred Heart game, Coach Toole, Coach Gallo told us that he was using you to look at certain things out there, particularly because you were undermanned that night with your 2 leading scorers sitting on the bench. What were the specific things you were looking for in that game?
Well, we actually, out of a time, they were really overplaying us, especially as we took the lead, and we were just kind of looking at maybe some switch situations. Are they switching our handoffs? Are they switching our ball screens? Where can we get a look here or there? And actually, after a timeout, we spoke, and they were really overplaying us on the wing, and we kind of ran a counter to a play that we run a ton, and we ended up getting a backdoor layup out of it. So like he said, he's walking by and he's always talking to me and what do you see and what do you got going on, and it's a good response. We're so defensive oriented sometimes, and we get so caught up in it, and there's times when you gotta sit back and breathe and say, okay, well, how can we score here and how can we get our next basket?
Speaking of sitting back and breathing, and we mentioned the frenetic pace at which Robert Morris plays. Are you out there trying to help him, help Coach Toole watch the guys in the fatigue factor set in as well? Is that part of your job?
Well, we have other guys that we chart minutes, but some minutes are faster than other minutes, obviously, and there's stoppage in play and free throws. So we try to. Our guys are actually pretty good. I will give them that about knowing when they're tired, and no one really ever tries to just suck it up, so to say, and say I'm going to go in there and hurt my team. Our guys play hard, and then they kind of give us the wave. And there's times where we have to pull the string on them a little bit, but for the most part, they're pretty good about letting us know that. I did my job, take me out, and I'm ready to go back in. I'll let you know.
And that's something that we encourage too, Shove. I mean, it's something that we talk about as a team, that if you're going to be on the floor and you're not going to be able to make the decisions you need to make, not going to be, physically capable of doing the things you need to do on the floor, it's selfish to stay out there. And we never want anyone to step out of a practice, because that's when you can build your ability to stay on the floor longer. But once the game kind of hits, if you're out there and you're fatigued, you got to let us know, and we got to get somebody else in the game that's going to go out there and be able to play at a high level. And our guys, we've turned it into something that's probably respected more than anything else. And so our guys, they respond to that, and they'll tell us, hey, I need a blow, I need a quick one here. You'll see guys during the course of our games, they'll put their hand up, and I think that's being a selfless teammate. I think that's really doing the right thing and saying, I'm not out here 100%. Let me get my teammate in here, trust that he's going to come in and play as hard as he needs to and keep this thing going.
Joe Gallo is the assistant coach, one of the assistant coaches on Andy Toole's staff. You're listening to the Andy Toole radio show on ESPN 970. Tonight we're talking Robert Morris basketball. Coach Toole, just as you have to develop a trust in your players, obviously you have to develop a trust in your coaches, and I know that you assign them particular opponents to scout. Is there any rhyme or reason as to whom they scout, or is it something that just goes into rotation, just like putting players in and out?
No rhyme or reason. I think we, the first year that we got there, we kind of had a little bit more rhyme or reason to maybe some ideas that guys might be more familiar with certain teams and certain programs. And then from there, it's just kind of grown about, this has been my team for 2 or 3 years, and I just kind of follow them and monitor them and figure out their style of play and what adjustments they might make. But each assistant gets about a third of the games to scout, and myself along with them, we really watch a lot of film and break it down. And when you have a new coach to your staff like Coach Gallo is, those first couple scouting reports, I'm sure, are a little bit nerve-wracking for him, because he's trying to figure out what I'm looking for, what I need. He's trying to present it to the guys in a way that they're going to really buy into, his sale of the game plan. And, I tell all of our assistants, when it's your scout, act as if you're the head coach.
All right.
What would you do? And that's their charge.
That's pretty good stuff. This is ESPN 970, the Andy Toole radio show, Robert Morris basketball. And Coach Toole, I'm going to let you handle this segment, because you are going to put your assistant coach and your longtime friend, Joe Gallo, on the spot. You have a number of questions for him tonight, and we're going to test his knowledge.
Just 5. I just have 5.
Okay.
And as we're going to do a little word association, I'd like to know first couple thoughts, maybe first few sentences that come to mind when you hear these words.
Okay.
Your first word would be Robert Morris University basketball.
Family.
Family.
I
Okay.
like that.
All right, not bad. New York Jets football.
Struggling.
Fair enough.
That was polite.
Allstate Insurance.
Love them.
Oh, love 'em. Coach Gallo just got a new car. Got a little nice handout from Allstate there. Now be careful with this one. This is kind of like a loaded question.
Okay.
Coach Toole.
One word?
If it's possible.
I'm going to go 3 words. I'm going to go intense, passionate about a lot of things, a little bit crazy at times.
Okay, I'll take that. And then this one, you definitely can't describe in just one word. Your famous chicken dish.
I lived with Andy when I first got up here, and his lovely wife made us a lot of great meals.
Sure.
So she's listening. I'll thank her for that. But I always told him I had this one chicken dish, and I really can't reveal it on air because until I actually make it for him, I don't want to give away the recipe. But I do have one dish that I make, and Buffalo Wild Wings would probably steal the recipe, and then it would be no good to me. So
They may want it.
This was described as a first date type
first date
dinner
type.
dish.
Yep.
Okay.
Coach Gallo's single. He's ready to mingle here in Pittsburgh. But he revealed this. This was his go-to. Invite a girl over to his house, make this chicken dish. My wife and I have just heard of it. It's completely fictitious. When he makes it, I don't think it's ever going to be able to exceed the expectations that Brooke and I have for it. And Brooke actually got mad at you last week's show because there was no mention of her or Ryan on the radio show.
Oh, I apologize.
So, I'm not sure if she stalked you down during the games, but
I'm surprised that she hasn't brought Ryan to the show yet tonight, because they do go to the games.
Very interesting point you bring up there, especially because this one's about 10, 15 minutes from our house.
Right.
She didn't feel prepared that she'd be able to make it tonight. So when I got home last week, the first thing she said to me was, good show. The second thing she said was, still no mention of me and Ryan. So want to make sure that we get them a little plug on air tonight here at Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right. Joe Gallo, thank you so much for stopping by in our Buffalo Wild Wings guest segment here. We have another guest coming up, former Steelers superstar.
Our real guest. He's our real guest.
Well, no, Joe Gallo's a real guest too. But John Banaszak's going to be joining us coming up in a little bit. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about Robert Morris football. Actually, pretty much about Robert Morris football. Andy, we're going to quiz you as to your team favorite. Now, I know Joe Gallo confessed, and I confess too, that I've been a Jets fan forever, and so is Joe. I'm a Steeler fan, tried and true, because let's face it, we're in Pittsburgh, but you have some different opinions as far as football is concerned.
There's no doubt about it. And I just caught a lot of glances from the bar over here. We got about 4 guys that immediately shot eyes on me hard right now. And I'm originally from New Jersey and New York Giant fan.
He's a New York Giant fan, folks.
Okay, we'll take that. New York Giant fan for as long as I've been. My dad was a Giant fan. Used to have season tickets when I was younger, so got to go to a bunch of those games. And, one of my first sports memories was the '86 Super Bowl where the Giants beat the Broncos there. And I've been a real loyal fan ever since. And actually came to the game. One of my first dates with my wife was when the Giants came to play the Steelers about 3 or 4 years ago at Heinz Field. And I have a Lawrence Taylor jersey that I was going to wear to the game.
No, you didn't.
I had it all laid out, and I actually punked out. I didn't wear it. I got scared. I'm not going to lie. And so we go to the game, and we're sitting in our seats, and I go up to go to the bathroom and come back, and I sit down, and Brooke's sitting next to me, and she says, I'm going to run up and go to the bathroom myself. And all of a sudden, the guy next to me leans over and says, I heard you were scared to wear your LT jersey. So she completely sold me out when I went up to go to the bathroom. But the Giants ended up winning that game, which made it fun for us and made it a good ride home.
All right. Okay. We'll continue talking football. And before we do that, again, we'll remind you if you're into Twitter, you could tweet a question to Andy or to anybody who is here at Buffalo Wild Wings tonight who wants to answer the questions. But you can just send it to #AskToole. That's AskToole. And Joe Gallo is still here with us right now, so maybe we'll get some comments from Joe too. But Coach, this is from Josh on Twitter. Do you expect Stephen Hawkins to get more minutes as the NEC schedule progresses? And maybe you want to expound on that too.
Yeah, I think Stephen's doing a really good job. He's really starting to develop each and every day in practice. And we talked about a little earlier in the show about how for incoming freshmen, it's always such a hard adjustment, understanding the intensity that you need to play at, the urgency you need to have, and just the daily grind of a season. Just in high school for a lot of our guys, especially since they're so talented, their practices that aren't as intense. They get up 2 days a week for game day, and when you're talking about practices sometimes that are harder than games, that's a whole new world for them. And starting as soon as you walk on campus in August and not being done until sometime in March, that's a long time to really have to be forced to bring it every day. But Stephen Hawkins, he's doing a great job. I expect to get more and more minutes out of him. I think he's going to continue to get more and more comfortable with what we're doing on the floor, situations that he's going to be in, and I really expect big things out of him. I mean, we see some plays that he makes in practice. He's extremely talented. He played close to 18, 19 minutes over the weekend, this weekend, and I'd expect he'd be playing that if not more. One of the things we've always done at Robert Morris is kind of feed you what you can eat, and the more he's going to be able to stomach, the more he's going to be out there on the floor.
Joe, these young guys are trying their hearts out. I know that. that, and Stephen is trying to play into more playing time.
Absolutely, and I agree with what Coach said. He's really developed over these last couple of weeks, and he's even gained our trust. I mean, it used to be, there was times he'd have to go in out of necessity with guys being tired and bodies, but you weren't exactly sure what you were going to get out of him. But now when, say Mike picks up a foul or Mike's tired, we know we're going to Hawk, and he's actually gained a lot more trust out of us. And even coming into league play just with his size and length, and I think he can really, bother some teams in the league, and he's really, I think as these weeks go on, especially down the stretch here, he's going to be someone that can really help us win some games.
All right, Assistant Coach Joe Gallo, thank you so much for coming out to the show tonight here
Thank you both.
at Buffalo Wild Wings in our first guest segment. Our second guest segment is coming up right after we take a break, and that guest in our Buffalo Wild Wings guest segment is going to be Robert Morris, current associate head football coach John Banaszak, who is going to become the head football coach once Joe Walton does retire, and that'll be after next season. And Andy, we're going to talk football with John.
Can't wait. I know we're going to be, sorry to see Coach Walton retire, but he's done so much for the university in building that football program and being a great ambassador for the university for 20 years. He's put his time in, and I think, there's no better successor than John. I mean, just ever since I've been there for 6 years, high energy guy, high intensity guy, the kind of guy that you'd want to play football for. I never got to play football because I weighed about 30 pounds less than the Pop Warner limit when I was 9, but if I did play football, he's definitely a guy I'd want to strap it out for, go out on the field with, and fly around for.
All right, we'll chat with John Banaszak coming up next on the Andy Toole Radio Show. We're talking Colonial basketball, and coming up next, Colonial football right here on ESPN 970. Actually, Buffalo Wild Wings in West Mifflin is the venue tonight. I'm Chris Shovelin, the play-by-play voice of the Robert Morris University Colonials. On the Andy Toole Radio Show, typically it's all about basketball because Coach Toole is the head basketball coach at Robert Morris here on ESPN 970. But one of your biggest fans and your team's biggest fan is here with us tonight in our Buffalo Wild Wings second guest segment of the evening. We see Associate Head Football Coach John Banaszak, who is now the coach in waiting at Robert Morris in the stands, cheering on the Colonials all the time, Coach.
All the time. He's there with his family. He's there with his grandkids, and I know his son as well. His son's been out to games, and they're just great supporters of the university, great supporters of our program. And it's always nice. I know they had a bunch of recruits in this weekend, and it's always nice when they can bring their recruits into an atmosphere at the Toole Center where we're playing some good basketball and there's some energy going on, because I know that's what we do in the fall when we bring our recruits on campus.
John, what do you think about Andy and his club? I know that you have become a great fan of that sport too.
I am a big fan of Andy and the program. There's no question about it. What I really enjoy about Andy and his program is those kids play hard. They play like I want my football team to play. And, there's no question that Andy coaches pretty hard too. That's very similar. We have the same kind of style. I want my kids to see me working as hard as they're working. I want the officials to see me working that hard too.
They notice you too.
Yeah. And no, it is great. It's a family atmosphere when you go to Toole and see those kids play. It's a great place to take recruits, especially Saturday night. We had a huge recruiting weekend this weekend, probably the biggest recruiting weekend in the history of the football program. And to be able to finish it with a win on Saturday night was awesome for our kids. We had 3 kids commit to Robert Morris on Saturday. 2 of them committed at your game, and I think that it was they see the student body getting engaged in it. The university is engaged in it, and it's a big, big thing for us.
And obviously, coaches, having great players makes you a much better coach.
Oh, no
those plays work a whole lot better when you got good players on the other end. But, Coach, tell us a little bit about what your guys have going on. I saw them today in the weight room. They were getting after it. They were competing. Tell us a little about what the program has right now and what you guys are doing on a daily basis.
Well, of course, Coach Hammer, the strength and conditioning coach of Robert Morris. So we sat down over the break and we went over to the conditioning program. Obviously, we want our football players to be bigger, faster, stronger than they were a year ago. And I think that the kids in our program understand that. After our championship season, we went 2-9. I've never been 2-9 in my entire life. That stinks. I'm never going to be 2-9 again.
Yep.
We had a very good recruiting class that year. Last year, we were 4-7. We improved a little bit. but certainly not enough. 4-7 still stinks in my book. And we're not going to be that again. And last year's recruiting class was better than the year before. And I think, obviously, Andy, you know that when you recruit, you just mentioned it, good players and bad coaching will beat bad players and good coaching any day.
Exactly.
And that's where our kids are working hard. Hammer and I defined some of the areas that we needed to be stronger with. We need put some weight on some of the kids that are already there. And the big thing about recruiting is you want to bring kids in to challenge kids already in your program.
There's no doubt. Competition, obviously, is something that makes the whole thing work, because if guys feel comfortable, if guys all of a sudden think they got their spot made, maybe they don't push as hard. And when you got guys going at each other every day, there's no choice but to get better. Today I think I yelled about 9,000 times, compete to improve.
Right.
If I'm going to allow you to make the same mistake over and over and not take advantage of it, well, it's going to become a habit in the game, and we don't want those kind of things. Coach, one of the things I think people are excited about is the addition of Paul Jones from Penn State. Can you talk about what maybe his mentality might mean to the program? Can you talk about what he's going to be able to do on the field, come spring ball and then obviously come the fall?
Well, obviously, when Paul Jones made his decision to transfer out of Penn State and he chose Robert Morris University, that was national news and gave our football program an awful lot of exposure. I think what he brings to the table is a quarterback that can dominate a football game, and we certainly know that. Now, our job as coaches is to try to influence Coach Walton into making some of the necessary changes in our offense to take advantage of what Paul brings to the game. And we're prepared to do that. When Coach is already down in Puerto Rico and recovering from his heart attack, and he called me, and he's doing well. Everything looks good for him. But what we want to do is to be able to, when he comes back in the spring, to be able to work on the things that Paul can do. And he certainly works out of the shotgun very well. I really think he's a Kaepernick kind of quarterback. To be able to run the football the way he does, to be able to run some of the option things that has been successful, and certainly at the college level for the last 10 years. And now you see it working into the professional level with a quarterback as talented as Kaepernick and RG3 and some of these other younger quarterbacks. You know what? It always used to be that won't work in the National Football League. Well, you know what? Now it's working.
Yeah, it's working pretty well.
And it's working real well, you bet.
Speaking of recruiting, Coach, I was doing some research on you earlier today, and I came across a story about you maybe making a kicker's mom tear up.
Oh,
is
how
that
did you
is that
get
true?
that story?
Is that true?
I did make a kicker's mother cry.
Was he on your team already, or were you recruiting him?
He's on my team. He was kicking
once they're on your
for
team,
me.
you can make anybody cry. That doesn't matter
Yeah,
anymore, right?
Right. Well,
What exactly happened? I mean, you got to defend yourself here. I don't want to put you out of here in a bad way, but
I was the head coach at Washington
Yep.
Jefferson College, and it was my first season. And we won our first 3 ball games, and I thought I'd be the only coach ever to coach in the NCAA without losing a game.
of course.
Okay, and we went to Hanover College in Hanover, Indiana, the town Woody Boyd made famous on cheers, with a freshman quarterback. And we had won our first 3 games. And against Hanover, he played like a freshman, and he threw 3 interceptions in the first half. And so we're down 24-7 at the half, and I go into halftime and give it my best halftime speech. And we came out in the second half, and we scored a touchdown. And after we scored, I went to the defense, and I said, come on, you guys got to get a 3-and-out. Our offense will go back on the field. We'll move to football. And I heard the crowd on the other side of the field roar. And I looked, and we missed the extra point. Oh. So I went screaming down the field, and I got face-to-face, and I'm walking with them. How could you miss an extra point? You let your team down. Okay, this offense worked hard and scored. We need every point we can get. And as he was walking, I'm right in his face mask. Sitting behind my wife is the kid's mother. And she is like, look at that animal. How's he treat my son? I get done talking to the kid, turn around, and one of the coaches grabs me and he says, Coach, it was a bad snap.
Oh, that's
and then I went back to apologize to the kid.
Yep.
And I said, well, because he had missed a couple extra points earlier. And I said, that's for all of the extra points you missed earlier in the season.
That was kind of the logic in my house was, you know, if I got in trouble and then figured my way out of it, my parents just figured they were getting me for something they didn't figure out. So I guess that can kind of work in coaching.
That absolutely works in coaching.
Good.
That's fabulous. John Banaszak is our guest in the Buffalo Wild Wings guest segment, presented here at Buffalo Wild Wings at Century 3 Shopping Center. We're in West Mifflin tonight. It's the Andy Toole Coaches Show. Typically talking about Robert Morris basketball, we're talking a little bit about football because we have one of the great Steelers of all time, John Banaszak, who is with us, and with Robert Morris University, the head coach in waiting. Now,
Yes.
you have to wait another year, Coach. Tell me about what
10
you're going to be
months,
going
3
through.
days, 42
So
hours.
you are counting it down.
Not that I'm counting.
I got
okay?
you. I got you. But it's a different kind of situation. We've seen this happen at other universities, though.
Yes, and at other universities, like West Virginia University, not to name names, but it didn't work out as smoothly as they had hoped to. Okay, one coach is investigating the other coach and all that stuff down there. I did not investigate Coach Walton. This is a smooth transition.
You think
And-
Coach Walton might have Googled you? You think he got on his
He
computer and
may-
started Googling
no,
you?
Coach Walton does not have a computer, so I didn't have to worry about that.
Good.
Okay. It'll be a smooth transition. It already has, as we're recruiting to transition into the type of football team that we're going to put on the field in 2014.
3 minutes.
You know, we have traditionally been a two-back pro-style offense. Defensively, we won't change a thing. Special teams, we won't change a thing. But on offense, we will get into a more modern offense, split some guys out, take advantage of some of the things that the defense allows us to get. And with talented student athletes, the wide receivers that we already have recruited in our program, the quarterbacks that are in our program, we're going to be able to make that transition. Now, I'm still a believer in being a balanced offense, you know, being a run the ball as well as throw the ball. And I think that just opens up an awful lot of opportunity for you if we're spread out and you count the number of guys in the box, okay? And there are more guys covering people, then you audible to a run and vice versa.
Yeah, and I think, Coach, talk a little bit about maybe some of the off-season, off-field adjustments you're going to make too, because I've heard about maybe some bricks, just a little bit more of a.
Done an awful lot of homework.
He's good, isn't he?
Well, I mean, I
I'm
got to
telling
be.
you.
It's the Andy Toole show. It's
it
not,
is
You know
the-
what I mean? I got to live up to that.
Yeah, well, you did a great job. Yes, I mean, you know what? I want to build a foundation, okay? And we're going to have a 6 a.m. program. And
Do you tell the recruits that, or you just kind of wait till they get on campus
no,
before
we're
you
gonna-
unveil that?
I just tell them it's not punishment, okay? There isn't anything we do in our program that's punishment.
You volunteer for those punishments.
That's absolutely right.
Yep.
Okay, and one of the things that was successful for me at W&J was, you know what, I got a truckload of bricks. And we run a 12-minute run at the end of the morning workout. And you carry those bricks with you. And the bricks are a symbol of building a foundation for that program. In the last
1 minute.
quarter of the 12-minute run, you have to run with those bricks above your head. And it really sends a message. So when our kids raise their 4 fingers for the fourth quarter of a football game, they remember, that means something to them.
Yep.
It just doesn't, you know, everybody does it, but when we do it, it's going to mean something.
John, I'm looking at Coach Toole. All of a sudden, the wheels are starting to turn up there. He's
I know.
thinking about getting
Hey.
a load of bricks into the Toole
Hey,
Center.
listen, last week, okay, his one-on-one practice, okay, last week that he ran, okay, that spread across. And
20
I wanna find
seconds.
out how you did that.
I'm just gonna stay on my treadmill over in the Jefferson Center. You can use your bricks, but I might send you
15.
some volunteers to come down and jog with your guys if you don't mind.
Guys, we're out of time. John Banaszak, thank you for joining
You're
us. The Coach Andy Toole Show here live at Buffalo Wild Wings in West Mifflin. I'm Chris Shublin. We'll talk to you next Monday night at 7.